So welcome back to the Active Listener, and today we've got a very interesting programme. We've got four really interesting people who are going to be talking a little bit about Saturday School, CB mentoring, and how it all got started. So I think let's start with you, Ed. We've obviously spoken before, so welcome back. Tell us a little bit about yourself very quickly.
Well, if you want to learn a bit about myself, watch the other episode. What episode number is it?
570. No, I don't.
Okay, yes. Anyway, yeah, watch that episode. But briefly, my name is Edwin Panford Kwenu, or Ed for those who know me, and that's EDD. I should repeat that again. Pharmacist and lots of other hats that I wear.
Yes, so I'm Charles, part of the CB crew, and currently, what am I? I work at academia as a business partner manager and Apple business manager, but pretty much a tech geek and a drone enthusiast.
Hi, everyone. My name is Anwa Abikamensa. I am currently a final year student at the University of Cambridge. I study human, social, and political sciences. So basically politics and a bunch of other like ologies all mixed in one. I really like it. I love what I do. But yeah, it's my final year, so I'll be moving on to other things soon. I'm from Southeast London. Born to Ghanaian parents, and yeah, that's a bit about me. And I'm a volunteer with the CB Mentoring Saturday School. So that's a bit about me, and I am gonna choose Tineke.
Hello, I'm Tineke Bernard. I am a trustee and one of the founding members at CB Mentoring. I am a marketing manager as my day job. I also have two children, one of which attends CB Mentoring Saturday School. And in my spare time, I like to promote diversity, promote Black families. I do. I wouldn't put myself out as an influencer, but I'm like everyone's influencer auntie. And we have Mex as well, so I'm going to pass over to him.
Thank you. So Mex is short for Emeka. So I'm Emeka Johnson Ikpe, half Nigerian, half Sierra Leonean. I live in Cambridge, but I've lived in different parts of the world, but I'll go into that another time. But I'm currently a digital marketing manager for a company called Grant Instruments. Also a retired footballer. I'm joking, I was only semi-pro, but yeah, I played a little bit. Yeah, I'm one of the founding members of CB Mentoring. I help out with the Saturday School and other activities we do. And yeah, into sports, into music, into fashion. And yeah, that's pretty much me.
Brilliant. Well, welcome everyone. And the common theme amongst all of that is obviously we're all involved in CB mentoring. So I think it'd be good just in a very couple of sentences, Ed, if you could just tell us how CB mentoring started and what the ethos is behind it.
Okay, so as per the previous episode, so I'm really going to plug that episode in or as much as I can. As per previous episode, CB mentoring, I guess, was as a result of what was going on post George Floyd, speaking to the son of a friend of mine, and that kind of ignited something that was already there within me for years. And really, I think I remember reaching out mainly to the boys. So I am going to, I guess, name a few names, but the Charles and Mex were kind of on that list. There were a few other friends that obviously did not come forward, but there was also Sean, who's not on this of course, and I remember speaking to Sean about it. It's like, yep, great idea, count me in. Charles was like, yep, great idea, count me in. And it was literally everyone that I spoke to was kind of, yep, I'm in. And then after Sean said yes, he called me that evening and he's like, I've got this girl at work. She will be amazing for this CB mentoring. I was like, okay, yeah, put her in touch. And I think we linked on LinkedIn first. Tineke, I think we linked on LinkedIn first.
Sounds
and then
right.
yeah, I think that's how we linked first. But then I remember going into town with my wife at the time. Sorry, my wife is still my wife. She hasn't changed, by the way. But I'm just saying that with my wife.
That was dangerous.
I know.
Like, oh.
Sorry, that came out wrong.
I was so confused for a second there. I can't lie.
We're still
Do you want me
married.
to edit
We're
that
still
bit
married.
out?
I've still got the ring. But I remember going into town with my wife on this day, on this particular day, and Tunica and I met for the first time, and she was just beaming with the energy that Sean described. And I was like, yes, thank you, Lord. Because obviously we hadn't met before, we hadn't spoken. And it just, yeah, the everyone that has joined CB mentoring from then has just been fire, basically. It's just been fire emojis throughout. Yeah, so that's pretty much how it came about. And I think it was June 24th, 2020 was our very first meeting. I remember I was working as a pharmacist during the day, and I was so excited to leave that pharmacy. Not that I wanted, but I was more excited about the meeting because it was the first time we were all going to meet. And we all turned up, all 13 of us at the time. And it was, yeah, it was a great meeting. It was a great meeting. And we're now 2 years and a bit in.
And it's worth saying that was all over Zoom, right? We didn't actually meet in person.
Yeah, we didn't meet in person.
About a year or so.
A year, yeah. For a year from the inception, we didn't actually meet in person. Yeah, I guess I'll leave that the first in-person meeting to someone else to describe. But for me, that first Zoom call was just invigorating. I remember parking on the side road until the meeting had finished, and then the hour drive back to Cambridge. I was like, thank you, Lord, for this, because definitely I couldn't have done this on my own, but you've also brought me some really strong giants for me to kind of support me on this journey. So yeah, that's a bit about the beginning.
Cool. So started off very well, continued to be really positive, good group of people. Before we talk any further about the actual Saturday school itself, which is what is a real fundamental part of CB mentoring, it'd be really good to hear some of your experiences as a child or growing up, if any of you had the same kind of thing of a Saturday school or people that have mentored you that you could share of how impactful that's been on your life. So maybe I'll pick on you, Charles, first.
I think I didn't specifically experience the Saturday school experience. However, I have been the lucky recipient of a mentor, and this amazing person, totally opposite of who I am, American lady who's now based in the UK. We met through work. At the time I was working at Apple, and it was a few key principles, core principles that she held when I looked at her bio and sent out my invitation for her to mentor me. Fast forward 6 months, I had gone from being curious and lacking some confidence when it comes to how can I expand my professional portfolio and put myself out there. 6 months later, I'd done maybe 20 interviews. I'd started getting into meetings with, people from very senior platforms within Apple. And a year on, I've now left Apple, but not in the sense that Apple was a negative place, but I've now been able to ascend to a position where I am confident in myself. The work that I'm producing and being a part of is being received at the level that I had dreamt but didn't realize would be available to me. And that was all through Tara coming in, you know, coaching me, mentoring me, but really instilling a lot of things that I didn't realize I needed up until we were talking through certain things. So she wouldn't bombard me with, you know, do this, do that. It was, okay, we'll have a chat, we'll set some goals. In 2 weeks' time, we'll have another conversation. And I put the pressure on myself because I then didn't want to disappoint her after those 2 weeks. And because I knew she wasn't getting paid to mentor me, she was dedicating and sacrificing her time. I didn't want to waste that opportunity, you know, who she is and everything she was giving to me. So mentoring for me has really been transformative and opened my eyes to, I need to get in a position where I can do the same for someone else. They could be younger, older. The world we're living in now, mentoring doesn't necessarily have to be to somebody in a low position to you. You could be mentoring somebody who just wants to upskill or enter into the world that you are slightly advanced at. So yeah, mentoring is something that I can definitely attest and provide a lot of testimony to.
Thank you. Pay it forward, exactly, Ed. So what about yourself? Have you got any examples that you could share?
Well, on the mentoring side, I think Charles has covered a lot, but for me, the Saturday school. So my experience of the Saturday school was when we moved to Cambridge as young, myself and my brother, to live with my mum. And there was a Saturday school at the time. And I think it was the Cambridge African Women's Group. And it was, for me, it was actually, as much as our parents wanted us to go and learn something there, it was the only time that I could actually mix and blend with other Black kids. And if you've lived in Cambridge long enough, you know, at that time, you could count the number of Black people that either lived here or were either in transient, as in the university and moving on. But even within those that were in the university, it was rare to see them out. So as a young person who didn't go out unless you're with mum or dad, it wasn't going to be possible to see other Black faces or even Black kids. Within my school, you know, it was only a handful of us. In my year, I was the only Black person in the year. So the year group, you know, it was like spot where Ed is. So the Saturday school was a really big part of that identity as a child. And when CB mentoring obviously was evolving, initially, obviously, the thought was mentoring, hence the reason CB mentoring. But when the Saturday school, once we started exploring the Saturday school, it took me back and how impactful that was at the very early years for me. And it just made sense that, you know, Saturday school had to be part of what we were going to offer. Just even if, you know, we didn't go down the mentoring with some of these young people, the Saturday school was always another option for them to engage with us and engage with their fellow young people as well. So yeah, Saturday school, absolutely rooting for it. Wherever it is, you know, it's happening. I'm all for it.
There's something there about representation and community rather than just homework, is being with a group of people. And certainly in the UK for a good few years, there has been a tradition of Saturday schools, certainly from Windrush generation and so on, of bringing people together. Mex, have you had any involvement at all?
Yeah. Yeah, I was just thinking about it while everyone was talking. So I never really had a Saturday school, but my early memories when I was young, because like I said, I've lived in a few countries, but when I was 2 till 9, I was in Nigeria, in Lagos, Nigeria, and I remember when I went to church, there was a room where you could go and study. So I remember that. So that's kind of what I did. So I kind of did a Sunday school, and that helped as well. And I also had tutors, etc., outside of school as well. So I was quite fortunate. So that really helped me, to the point that when I arrived in Cambridge in the UK just before I was 10, there was a discussion what year I'd actually go into, because I think I was supposed to go into year 4 then, but I was ahead of my time, so basically they put me into year 5, and so much so I just carried on being a year ahead. But then my mum kind of made the decision that it was better for me to fit in with my age group. So when I got to secondary year 7, which I was supposed to be in year 8, she kind of put me back to my age group. So yeah, I joined year 7 with the others. So yeah, that just helped me just stay ahead. But yeah, that was my main experience of just having some other type of schooling outside, and then one-to-one schooling with my mum. Really, that really helped.
Thanks. So we're going to go to Tin next, because Anwar, you're going to be able to tell us a bit about delivery of Saturday School, because that's something you've specifically been doing. So Tin, did you want to share your thoughts too?
Yeah, so I didn't do Saturday School or particularly have mentoring. I grew up in North London, so I guess the whole thing of the togetherness of having somewhere that represented your race and seeing people that you knew, it didn't even occur to me because it was such a multicultural area. It's only maybe when I went to uni and stuff that suddenly I went to university in Hertfordshire, and suddenly it's like, whoa, it's not everywhere as multicultural as it is where I grew up, kind of thing. So it wasn't really an issue, but I think I'm coming at it from a parent's kind of angle in a way. So I moved up here. I have one daughter who lived half her life in London and half of it up here now, and one who's only ever known here. Both of them, my daughter was the only black child in her class, and now she's in secondary school. There's only 2 or 3 of them in the entire year. You can count them, in one hand, probably, in terms of how many black children are in her secondary school. And I'm always fearful that she's missing out on so much culture and so much things that I just took for granted. This, the slang, the, gelling each other's hair and making the baby curls, the really silly things that you just do and you just take for granted and things, that she wouldn't have it. So I was always very keen for her to find ways to find community and find examples of her culture up here. And, CB mentoring came at the, just at the right time. So for me, it was just as important for me to help out and be, is being the change you want to see. I want to be able to see my kids have those kind of communities. So in order to do that, I'm happy to volunteer. The same way when I wanted my daughter to be in brownies, I became a brownie leader to make sure she could be there. And, if I'm going to be taking them anywhere, I might as well do my part to help. So, I knew straight away that this, when, Charles and Sean came at me with the idea of, joining CB mentoring, and saying, what they were going to do, doing the mentoring, doing the social cultural trips, doing a Saturday School. It's like, I want my children to do this. They need to be part of this, and if they're going to be a part of it, I'm going to be a part of it too. So yeah, I think it's just amazing. You need it, maybe not so much in London, but even London, they do have them. You do get Saturday Schools, but I think it's just as much about the educational side of things and showing people where they can be. My daughter never thought that she'd apply for someone like Cambridge. I didn't. It wasn't something that was ever told to me growing up. That, oh, maybe you should go to one of the local unis. It wasn't something I aspired to do or think I could do. And she still remembers a really off the comment. Ed, you probably don't even remember saying it, but off the comment we made one day on the way to an event, a CB mentoring event. And, Ed just was like, well, why can't you go to Cambridge? If you don't dream it, you can't do it. Aim big. And she remembers that, and she mentions that now and then, and she's like, I'm going to Cambridge because I might not go to this university, but I'm going to be in Cambridge, and it's that thing of just, you don't know the power you have on other people, and just the things we say, and just us being present in these children's lives are changing them and shaping their futures. So it's just really powerful to see. That is me.
Brilliant, thanks, Tin. So Anwar, you're heading up the students involved with us at Wolfson College doing the Saturday School. So tell us a bit about your experience, if there's anyone that's particularly mentored you, and also your work involved with CB mentoring in the school.
Sure. So I think in terms of mentoring, probably the experience that stands out the most to me was Rare Recruitment. So they're an organization based in London, and essentially they try and partner with Black students between the ages of around probably 12 all the way to when you're applying to university, and sometimes beyond that, to essentially just help you get to where you want to go. So they have a lot of clients, which include law firms and universities, and I was on one of their courses called Target Oxbridge, which was specifically aimed with helping Black students get into Oxbridge. And what was really interesting to me about that program and being on that scheme was just that the barrier to entry for Oxbridge was not the fact that these Black students, including myself, were not intelligent. It wasn't that we didn't have the grades. It was just that there are certain quote unquote soft skills that you don't unfortunately pick up when you don't come from a middle class white background. And essentially they were training us in how to play the game, how to write the application, what you need to say, what you need to do in the interview. And my involvement with Rare Recruitment went beyond that. It went into applying for internships, and it was the exact same thing. It's not that we weren't as intelligent. It wasn't that we didn't have the grades. It was that we didn't have the quote unquote soft skills. But I'll explain my beef with soft skills another time. And
it's
so
a podcast right there.
Honestly, it's a podcast episode in and of itself. And so essentially that's what that was. And I think that highlighted to me the importance of schemes like that, the importance of mentorship. And for me, I think in coming to Cambridge, a really big, I guess, barrier breaking moment for me was my sister getting into Oxford. My sister's 5 years older than me. And as a family, it was never something that we envisioned that any one of us would go to Oxbridge. But my sister she's very single-minded. She's very ambitious. And she went to a sixth form that I ended up following her to, that essentially she was just there because it was a good sixth form, and it was hyper selective, but you know, she wanted to be there because she wanted to get good grades. And the teacher just said to her, have you thought about applying to Oxford? And she was like, no, I haven't thought about applying to Oxford. And that teacher was like, you should think about it. And that was when the conversations began. And I remember being like, what, she was probably 17, so I would have been about 12. I was like, this is a possibility for us. It seemed really out there for me. But not only did she apply, she got in, she did law. And so when it came to my turn, I was like, okay, this is something I can actually consider. And I think it goes to show how in many ways, it's not just about having mentors. I had, you know, when I got to that position, I had Rare Recruitment, etc. But for me to even apply for Rare Recruitment, to get to the point where they were helping me to apply, I needed to have it in sight. And that's what my sister was for me. And that's what her teacher was for her. And so by the time I got here and I had the opportunity to be involved with CB mentoring, I think there were a number of things on my mind that made me really keen to be involved. The first one was just that the space of Cambridge has so many negative connotations when it comes to Black students and people of colour in general, whether it's the way in which it's linked to colonialism and slavery, whether it's the fact that the city, and especially, you know, certain areas of the city and the Cambridge and the university is very white. It's generally a white space. Entering into that space can feel very daunting. And I think just that in itself, even if you have the grades, even if you have the quote unquote soft skills, can make it seem inaccessible. And so a big thing about the Saturday School for me was making sure that the students felt as though they had ownership in the space. Being, you know, in the college, being in the dining hall, it was really important that they felt comfortable there. And so that was the first thing. The second thing was also just helping students with their work. I think knowing that, you know, work can be hard. I mean, now when I help, when I volunteer, I find that some of this maths is hard. I don't remember how to do it. It's difficult. So the work is hard. And I think having support and knowing that you're being supported is really, really important. But also, I think it's important to see different faces teaching you. I don't know about you guys, but most of my teachers in school were white. And I don't know whether that reinforced anything in my head that, you know, the people with knowledge are white and the places that you go to get knowledge are white. But I think it's important that there are places that subvert that. And I think the Saturday School does that, because our teachers are all teachers of color. They're all students of color. And that's very significant. And then beyond that, I think it was just important to me personally to be able to give back and contribute to a program that I feel like echoed some of the things that helped me to get to where I am today. And I'm very aware of all of the people that contributed to that, whether it was direct or indirect. And yeah, I love the fact that, you know, the students come, the kids come, and they're happy to be here. And hopefully, if they want to, there'll be a bunch of them at Cambridge some point in the future. And I would love to know that I was a part of that, you know, however big or small that may be to them. And so, yeah, that's it for me.
Brilliant, thank you. Ed, you've got your hand up. You're being very polite today.
Yeah, it's the MS Teams etiquette that I thought, you know. Do you know, I remember the very first meeting we had with Wolfson, and Anwar was there, and obviously, and you said something, I can't say it in quotes, but you said something about representation mattered, and the fact that, you know, the student volunteers at Wolfson had to be at least from a Black origin, therefore it then empowered the children. And if I'm really honest, I had never ever thought about that until you said it, and I thought, actually, Anna is so right. It's just, but when you said it, it was almost like my eureka moment, because you kind of know representation matters, but when someone vocalizes it, and she did it with passion as well, I was like, oh wow, yet another person to take, you know, in the gift that God is giving to the CB mentoring. And I'll be honest, something that's become really obvious, man, you know, not to kind of sideline all the men in my life, but the women that I've come across have just been powerful. You know, if you take Tineke, first time we met, I was like, wow. Anwar, wow. Chietza, I had known, but when she came on board here as well, and that, you know, that's another episode for you. And obviously, we all know Chloe and her kind of pizzazz that she brings to every meeting. So the women that are involved in this have just been incredible for me. And I'm not saying, you know, the men are not. For me, it's just been, and obviously they've just brought such a different dimension that I really, really appreciate, and forever will be grateful.
Can I just
Charles.
quickly, your wife, wow. Because had she not stood by you, let's not forget her. Let's not forget
Oh no,
her.
so okay. Well, if we're gonna go down that road, then in that case, mum and wife, on the domestic side, powerful.
There you go.
Powerful.
And ideas as well, because, you know, she's come up with some amazing ideas, and, like, you know, with the cultural side of things as well, like, really been there.
Absolutely. So, and like I said, you know, there are a whole list of female powerhouses that have been involved in this, either directly or indirectly, but without a doubt, my wife has just been the person in the background. Do this, say this, go here. And I was like, okay, yes, actually, yes, ma'am, you know, kind of thing. But no, they've all been just absolutely amazing ideas. And similar to what Tineke was saying, she's also thinking of it from a mother's point of view as well. So if I want my children to be part of this, then I need to be part of it, directly or indirectly. So a lot of the decisions, I'll be honest, raise my hand and say, I'm only a figurehead. A lot of the things that are actually happening within CB mentoring have just been everyone else. yes, everyone say I came up with the idea, but I think the idea was already there. Something may have happened, but the people doing the real work, without a shadow of a doubt, are the men and women that have been part of CB mentoring directly or indirectly. So forever grateful. But I do appreciate every single input that everyone has had, and without a shadow of a doubt, I know we need to discuss what happens next year. I'm just going to put that out there now.
Yes, we do.
Max, go on.
Next.
Yeah, no, it's just amazing to hear, to be honest. Just amazing to listen. But yeah, just thinking about that word, representation matters. It's just powerful, and it's just so true. And it's funny when I think about it, I think of the last few years, what's been happening. Like, because I'm in marketing, I see a lot of things, and like for instance, the Disney movies, Encanto, where they had the little boy, and then I don't know if you saw the image of the actual little boy with the curly hair sitting next to the TV, and that showed that representation matters. And then we've had Moana recently, we've had Black Panther, we've had Black Adam, so many different things, just bridging the gap and representing other cultures and our culture. I just think it's a powerful thing. And obviously not forgetting Stormzy, what he's doing with Cambridge University, which in a recent interview he actually said that a lot of people were against that just because of how he looked, which is crazy. But yeah, things like that. But it just links to one of the reasons I wanted to be in CB mentoring, actually. So around the time CB mentoring came along, I became a new dad, and when you, as a parent, you'll know, you quickly are aware, you're just self-aware of yourself, and you're very cautious of how you represent yourself because of your kids. And that statement, representation matters, really comes into effect. So everything I do now, I'm thinking about him, and I'm thinking, how do I want him to remember me? Not that I'm going anywhere, but like now, in the future, in the past, whatever. And yeah, that's why this CB mentoring was a big thing, because one, I wanted to show him that I was making a difference, but also apart from him, I also wanted to make a difference with other generations coming up and give them the opportunities that I might not have had, but other people around me might not have had as well. So yeah, that representation matters. Just those two words are just really powerful to me. So,
Thanks for sharing that. So in regards to the school, where are we at? What have we done, and where are we going?
The person that should be answering that is Mark, but yeah. But that's fine.
I'm asking.
Yeah, you're asking now, so that's fine. You ask, and I'll answer. If I'm really honest, the Saturday school has gone from strength to strength, and I was very impressed by the number of volunteers we had at the last inauguration, so to speak, and really where we're going now, I want us to expand to all the other colleges. I know within the current cohort of volunteers, we've got some from the other colleges as well, but certainly the plan is to expand beyond Wolfson College and actually have other colleges involved in the Saturday school and offer their own kind of system of Saturday school. Anwar and her team have given us a very good template and a very good foundation to kind of work from. I can't thank her and the team enough. I really can't. And I think, Mark, I'm going to say at some point, get that team from Wolfson on here as well, because they need to shine their own light. Yes, they've been part of CB mentoring, but they brought in their own torch and lit the flame, beyond. So and talking about women that have really done this for us as well. I can't forget Jane. Jane has just been another person that has just really made a huge difference for CB mentoring as well. So Jane, if you're listening, thank you. But enough. I think I would rather hear from Anwar to see where because you've got the volunteers now. So where do you see this? I think that it would be good to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, sure. I think this year has been easier than last year in that obviously we already have a template to work with. Last year was our pilot. This year we're just kind of building off of that. I think one thing that I was really confident about was that when we really tell the story of what we're doing, and the volunteers that we're pitching to, or the potential volunteers that we're pitching to at the beginning of the year, see the images and really connect with the mission, they are basically sold straight away. This year we had to do quite a lot of recruitment pushes, but I think it was more because the freshers are always very busy and everyone's trying to grab them and get them involved with things. So we were competing with like the boat club and all of these other things. But once they come to the first session, they're basically hooked. We've had so many volunteers. I think 2 weeks ago we had almost 2-to-1 volunteers to kids, just because everyone really wants to be involved and they're telling their friends about it and their friends are emailing like, can we get involved? And that's just such an exciting position to be in. So in terms of where we are right now, I think we're in a really strong position. And I think my only concern going forward is that I'm not going to be here. This is my final year, so I won't be here next year.
To be discussed, Anwar. To be discussed.
To be discussed. Everyone is trying to pitch this idea of a PhD.
So it's time to take the hint.
It's not feeling like it's for me right now, but we will circle back. I promise we'll circle back.
Okay, all right.
No, but honestly, I think it's going forwards. I think it will grow from strength to strength. I don't see it going in any other way. I think it's all just dependent on continuing to build on the structure that we have. Continuing to really make use of how enthusiastic, as you were talking about Jane's the president of Wolfson College, continuing to build on how enthusiastic she is about this program and others that are similar to it. And I'm aware of the fact that her time as president will be coming to an end, I think in a year and a half, maybe 2 years. So really making sure that this is entrenched within Wolfson such that when she leaves, it lives on. There aren't any issues in, the transition between her and the next president. Those are the things that are kind of on my list to do next. Making sure that you guys have a really good relationship with the team. I know that Raquel does a lot of the, in between administrative stuff, but I think you guys kind of being the face of that and really sitting in those meetings with college directly and liaising with college directly is something else that I think would be a really good step to take forward. Just because it means that the middleman of me and Raquel and other students that unfortunately come and go, that kind of disappears, and it means that it's this direct partnership as opposed to there aren't students in the middle. But yeah, I'm really excited for what the future looks like. I'm excited to expand. I'd really love to have every Saturday us filling up the Lee Hall. That would be amazing. Expanding to other colleges I think would be great. There's definitely enthusiasm from students at other colleges. Like Ed mentioned earlier, we have volunteers that are coming from other colleges, literally getting cabs in the morning to be here, which really speaks to just how much passion people have for this. And on top of that, it's worth noting that the Black population of Cambridge University is expanding very rapidly. And I think the more I talk to Black students, I mean, Wolfson College has a decent number of Black students, but there are a lot more Black students in other colleges. And when I talk to them in lectures, if we're out, bringing this up, people get so excited and people really want to be involved in it. And so, I mean, I would love to have a collab with, the ACS. There's just so much to do. There's so much more we can expand. And so, yeah, I think I have big dreams for it, whether I'm here or not.
I have big dreams as well, and you haven't left that dream yet, Anwar. So you could leave Cambridge, but you're not leaving CB Mentoring.
Okay, that one I'm with. That one I'm with.
Thank you. Thank you. And we've got it recorded, so there's evidence now. Sorry, go on, Charles.
I just want to say, I guess the other side of it is the benefit of this platform is, Mark, your listeners can play a role in, you know, how we expand and the impact that we continue to aspire to have. It doesn't just come down to our ideas, like Ed explained. It was what he had envisioned and what he had thought. But when we sit down as a group and we talk things through, you know, not everything comes to light, not everything comes from planning to fruition, but the things that do is because they're what are most impactful. We have different perspectives within our cohort. We've got people from different career paths, different industries. So all this to say, your listeners can play a big part in what we do next, because we're focused on the next generation, how we can assist them. There could be things that we may not ever think of that would help. So any feedback or suggestions through your podcast and wherever the link is for your podcast and the previous episodes, we're more than happy to take the feedback on, and we will we are a charity. So on that word, I think it would be remiss to note that, and to not mention that donations are, you know, welcomed, and everything is always above board, on the up and up. I'll pass over to the charity chairman to properly mention this.
Yes, yes, Charles. I mean, one thing that's become apparent is as we expand, a lot of the activities that we want to be part of or take part in, you know, requires money, and we've managed so far with very little money, but the vision requires some kind of donation. So anyone listening to this, the CB Mentoring website is being revamped with a donate button. So we would really gladly appreciate any donation, because some of the activities that we had or we've got planned for these young people is going to be amazing, but we don't want money to be a barrier or a reason why a child cannot come onto an excursion with us, or just, you know, get to the Saturday school, you know, and all of these things unfortunately require money or some kind of financial input. So we are working towards, you know, various grant applications, but obviously if you're in a fortunate position to donate to us, we will gladly accept that as well. So thanks for bringing it up, Charles, and giving me the opportunity to kind of expand on that. Over to you, Mark.
Yeah, I was to say, I mean, obviously we're a registered charity, so it is all legit. And the actual Saturday school is free, right? I mean, we're not charging at all, and we don't want to charge at all. So obviously we're reliant on people's goodwill and time. So some donations, at least to go towards those events, would be really good, so we can provide stuff for free, or at least heavily subsidised for kids. So I guess two things: how do people get involved from the point of view of volunteering, and how do people get involved in terms of bringing their kids along?
So the easiest way is probably to check out our website, which is cbmentoring.org. Might be .uk at the end of that as well, .org.uk. And on the website you can, there are many places where we point out that you can click to ask for more information, and there's a simple contact form on there as well. From both ends, if you want to volunteer, you can find out more information. If you want to find out what we've been doing with the kids, you can find out there as well. We also are on social media, so if you look up CB Mentoring on Instagram or CB Mentoring on LinkedIn and Facebook, you can contact us via, you can DM us there as well, and we are around, and we can point you in the right direction and get you the right forms over to you. There are many different ways you can volunteer. So if you don't have time to volunteer every Saturday, you don't have to. So, there's rotas involved, so you can volunteer for the Saturday school, and you just let us know how much you can do. Don't feel if you're traveling from far or you just have other commitments, you have to commit to every Saturday. And you can also volunteer on one-off as well. So maybe you want to, you've got an interesting career that you want to be able to share with the children about how you got there with young people. You can come in as a one-off and, talk to them about that. Or if you want to, we've been on some really amazing excursions. If you do something and you want the kids to come to you, by all means, we went to a really amazing art workshop in Peterborough, for instance. We're willing to travel. So if there's something you want to do and volunteer your time in another way, just contact us. We're really open. Young people cannot be what they cannot see. It goes back to that representation matters thing. So if you have a skill to share, or a dream that's been realized that you really want to pass down, just contact us. So I say Instagram, LinkedIn, our website, Facebook, you Google us, you'll find us. Whichever way is easiest for you, we are there. We're not on Snapchat and stuff yet because we are old and don't get it. But
so not everyone's old.
Okay, not old as Ed. Not as old as Ed.
I know Anna was the only one on this call that may actually be able to use Snapchat. I don't get it personally.
I still don't understand TikTok. Let me not lie.
Okay, we're not.
we're not.
But do get in contact with us and let us. We would love to have you. And the same, if you want your children to take part, do contact us. There are spaces. We want to fill up those halls. We want to fill up halls across other universities too. So I'd say secondary school age onwards at the moment we're doing. So unfortunately we can't take primary school children at the moment, but do contact us, and there are some really willing volunteers to help tutor them.
Thank you.
Brilliant. Well, thank you everyone. And for a wrap up, is there anything else anyone wants to add in as a final word?
Anwar, yes, good.
Yeah, no, I just had a thought actually, and I probably should have mentioned it earlier when I was talking about dreams for the future. But I think a big thing that I'm looking forward to is collaboration with schools. I know that there are so many kids that have parents that may not be thinking about putting them in a Saturday school, and in that sense, having schools actually recommending students to the Saturday school, there being such a good partnership with so many different schools, such that they can refer kids, and we can have kids coming that aren't being brought by their parents, would be amazing. And I'm excited to see that as well. I know, Ed, you're on a couple of boards and you're making inroads there. It's happening slowly, but that's something I'm really, really excited about. And I think it's just worth noting that there are so many people from different backgrounds where sometimes there are parents that aren't thinking about that sort of thing. Like, I know that I'm very blessed to have parents that literally moved houses and changed mortgages, all that stuff works to make sure that we were in a borough to go to good schools, because that was something that was really important to them. And they were always researching things and finding people. But I know there are parents that have a lot of responsibilities. They don't have time. They may not be thinking about those sorts of things. And so a way of reaching the kids more directly, I think is really beneficial, and cuts across class boundaries and stuff as well. So yeah, it's just such a program with so much potential and so much reach, and the potential for so much reach. So yeah, that's probably my last thing.
Thank you. Tina K.
I wanted to say thank you to Anua and all the other student volunteers, because I don't think you understand what a difference you make to these kids. It's not just, yes, there's definitely a difference in terms of their attainment levels, like grades, like the actual physical grades they're achieving based on you explaining things, into, you know, taking the time out to explain things and collaborate with them in a way that, you know, teachers in, you know, the state schools do not have the time to do. So, you know, we've seen so many of our participants, you know, climb 1-2 grades up in the space of, you know, a year. You've seen their behavior in class change as well. You've seen them actually missing going to Saturday school when it's summer and it's not on. You know, they're actually craving to go back, and it has a trickle down effect. So, you know, I've heard at least 3 mentions of things they've heard from you guys talking in the dining hall, you know, after Saturday school, and just having those conversations around, you know, around food, breaking bread. And, you know, my 5-year-old just kind of mentioned, oh yeah, one of the tutors, I'm not going to name any names, used to eat paint. You know, I don't know who that would be, but, you know, she said that to me today and pointed out, goes, I've done that too. And, you know, it was really nice to know someone else has done that. And I'm like, okay, you know, Anua. So, you know, even that, they're listening, they're picking up, they're being in places they've never been. They're going back to school, going, oh yeah, I have brunch in Cambridge University Hall, you know, every Saturday. And that's impressive. And that gets them, you know, comfortable to do things that maybe would have seemed scary and maybe not seem like their place. And that's because you guys are there making them feel comfortable. You're having those conversations with them. You're making what could be very scary and feel like somewhere they shouldn't belong seem like they have every right to be there. So thank you as a mum and as a CB Mentor member for you doing that and taking time out on your Saturday when you could be recovering from a heavy Friday, or, you know, getting on with your coursework, but you're taking time out to, you know, help our kids. So thank you.
You're welcome. Honestly, we love it. Like, it is one of my favorite parts of the weekend, like hands down. And I know that's the case for so many of the volunteers. Like I said before, people are often skeptical to, you know, get on boards. They're a little bit scared about what it entails, the responsibility they have to take on. But after session 1, the volunteers love it. And it's the best part of their weekend. So yeah, thank you for the opportunity. And yeah, we're really enjoying it.
Well, look, thank you, everyone. Real pleasure to have you along, and thank you for your time. And I look forward to catching up again.
Yes, next
Thanks,
episode.
Mark.
Thanks, Mark.
Thank you very much.
Take care.
Thanks, Mark.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye all.
Take
Bye-bye.
care.
Bye.